Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online PTS news video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're taking a look at the 6.0.3 patch notes for PTS and what it has coming for it. Now, I am going to be clear on this. Don't think they did a massive overhaul on a bunch of stuff. In fact, a lot of it happens to be fixes for the antiquity system, a few skill fixes for the vampire line, additional craft fixes, and more. Of course, they said they appreciate the feedback and bug reports so far. If you have any remaining feedbacks, items, or bug reports to submit, please utilize feedback or /bug in-game so it can be properly processed. They say the size of the patch is 377 megs. It was, but there is something weird with the patcher, and I do want to point this out to the devs if they're watching. When we patch, we get a 377 meg download, but then we get a 30 gig update. Like, it has to patch 30 gigs of information from that for some reason. It's really annoying. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand it because I've never seen patches that work that way. If something's usually 377 megabytes, when it unzips and goes into its file location, when it's when it downloads the patch, it'll download the 377 and then it'll patch it to where it needs to go. It shouldn't have to go through every file to put things where it belongs. It should automatically put it into its location a lot of the times, depending on the launcher. The only launcher that I know of that does this particular thing is the Star Wars The Old Republic. And Star Wars The Old Republic is built on the Hero engine, which is what ESO used in the original creation of the game, but said they changed to a different system later. But it seems like the launcher, it might be Hero engine still, I don't know. But it's the only launcher that I know that does that particular thing. No other game do I know of does that. It takes the files and then goes through every file to make sure it gets put in the right place. It's so weird that it does this. It's annoying. And so that's just one of the gripes I have right now with this. There is another one. A lot of people are complaining about the live service stability when it comes to PvP, PvE, like dungeons and trials and stuff. And I will say that I haven't experienced a lot of these things that a lot of people talk about, except for I did notice some in Battlegrounds. When I was doing Battlegrounds the other day, I noticed a little bit of, and I don't want to say it was lag, it was more or less, there was more stuff going on the screen, that I did notice frame drop. But I don't know if I would call it lag, because when you experience lag, you don't get frame drop. You get lag. You literally get the game lags, but you don't get any frame rate problems. I was getting literal frame rate problems in Battlegrounds. Like, my frame rates dropped from 146 to 29. And I was just like, nah, there's something wrong here, so... Alright, so moving on now to the update. So Greymoor got some general fixes. The trial got some minor adjustments, which is really, really small compared to what we've seen so far. It's had a lot of fixes. Exploration and itemization had some adjustments, or some fixes and stuff. Some achievements had some fixes. But antiquities, they, it just fixed a ton of stuff here. So the general stuff they fixed is right here. Codex, journal stuff, they fixed a bunch of stuff. Dig sites, they fixed some stuff. Excavations, they fixed some stuff. Now, I haven't tested the, and I'm not gonna lie, I haven't tested the Antiquities skill system. I've tested a lot of the Antiquities gear, and that's about it. But they also go on and they talk about the itemization stuff, how they fix itemization and drops from different types of dig sites and stuff, leads, how that that's the fixes for there and adjustments there. Mythic item fixes and equipped mythic items now feature an orange glow behind them to better help them stand out. Scrying, UI changes to the Antiquities system and how things work. lots of fixes to the antiquity system, and that this is the part that I want to focus on real quick, because I want people to understand when I say a lot of the changes that you're going to see are going to be game changes stuff. It doesn't mean class and race or other thing or itemization to gear sets. It is literally fixes and adjustments to what they're trying to put into the game. And we saw this a lot with even though they did do a lot of itemization and class adjustments during Somerset. But Somerset also added the Sigil Order skill line. It had a lot of bugs in it. They went through and fixed a bunch of that stuff. They fixed a bunch of the stuff that was coming with the trial and everything. And we were getting things like this normally when with our updates. But this update, it is, again, it's still kind of confusing to a lot of people, because once you get past this and you get down here to like housing items, furnishings, they did a lot of updates and changes to a few things, mostly fixes. Monster, the Death Hounds, and the humanoid vampires now have different things to them. They also did some NPC stuff. They also did some quest stuff, Horrorstorm's quests themselves. They did some fixes. And then you get down here and you're scrolling through and you get to the combat and ability stuff. And this is where it's like, what? Like you could like blink and it's gone. So they fixed numerous issues with passives such as Banish the Wicked or Expert Hunter, failing to recognize some enemies as werewolves in the Wolf Hunter DLC dungeons. Made additional adjustments to bar swap to ensure that swapping from both bars now receives the proper cooldown changes, and they fixed an issue occurring in some battlegrounds where falling while in the middle of a cast time could cause the cast time to get stuck. And then buffs and debuffs. Minor timidity fixed an issue where this debuff failed to apply from the poisons that sourced it. And then vampire. So they adjust vampire stages to the following. So stage 1 of health recovery is now minus 10%, minus 30%, minus 60%, and then minus 100% at max at tier 4. Flame damage, they adjusted 5 to plus 5, plus 8, plus 13, and plus 20%. The funny thing is that when you have a dark elf, their flame damage stuff, like, literally almost negates this completely. It used to do a better job of it with the old system, but with the new system, it still does almost the same. There is some inconsistencies, I will say that, in some flame damage you take. Regular ability costs, this is something that they did need to adjust. I agree with this adjustment. So to 3, 5, 8, and 12 from 5, 10, 15, and 20. The vampire cost, also another good change here. 6, 10, 16, and 24. Now, this is a lot of this is really good with the vampire stage adjustment. Still, there's still some, like I said, with the flame damage, there still seems to be some inconsistencies, especially with Dark Elves and the 20%. The rest of the races, you can definitely feel that 20%, and it's pretty crazy. Blood Frenzy, the cost from this ability and its morphs now increased by 20% for every second. When second they remain toggled on, and stack indefinitely. The cost resets when toggled off. This is a huge, oh man, that's a huge hit on that one. Shimmering Frenzy, but we do need to test. So I just by looking at it, it's a huge hit. So Shimmering Frenzy, this morph, no longer causes the health cost to increase every second. It is toggled on as the base already covers this. It continues to increase the weapon and spell damage bonus every second it is toggled by 10%. Mesmerize, they increase the length of the cone of this ability and its morphs to 10 meters, up from 7 meters. The arc of the cone remains 90 degrees, and they fixed an issue where the player-to-player Vampire Bite was not playing its paired animations, which I noticed. The Mesmerize thing, that's cool. I'm glad they put that difference in there, that 10%. But this is like the biggest nerf that the vampire is gonna fill on this, because when you have this active blood frenzy, you cannot be healed by any other source but yourself. Even using vigor, even using Templar heals, even using some class heals is still hard to maintain the health loss. Even as a Nightblade, you're going to have this crazy health loss, even though the Nightblade has a lot of tick healing built into the class. This is just going to make it so much more worse. And like I said, it's going to be some testing. I'm going to do it today and look at it. But just the 20% just sounds a little too much, in my opinion. Item set spawn of Mafala, they fixed an issue. And then Yonder's Might and Perfected Yonder's Might, they fixed an issue with the giant endurance would persist through the bar swapping or equipment. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. So then you go on, and we got art and animation stuff. We got some audio fixes. Crown Store and Crown Crates fixed some issue stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Events and celebrations, Mid-Year Mayhem fixes, Somerset Celebration fixed, exploration and itemization stuff, achievements, housing, furnishings, miscellaneous. We could go on through this all, but that is it. So this is the part that really I don't want to say a lot of us, but a lot of people are confused about, is the combat ability changes. Usually, we're accustomed to seeing a lot of changes to class skills, to item sets, to just a lot of stuff. We're not getting that in this update again, and that's because they are focused on getting everything else stabilized. They are working on getting everything else in place. And I will say this again, a lot of the changes that you're going to see to some things, they will make minor adjustments when it comes to skills and abilities. Where you're going to see the biggest change always is in the content that they're releasing. And that is because the content they're releasing, they want to make sure works properly, doesn't have a lot of bugs, doesn't have a lot of issues when it goes live. It will still have some problems when it goes live, but not as many as it could. And this will be patched out as probably before it goes to consoles, but the class changes, the racial changes, those kind of things, we're not going to see a whole bunch of that right now. And that's because that's not their focus this update. Where last couple updates was before this blood, whatever this vampire thing started, the Greymoor season of the whatever started, we saw a lot of class changes. We saw a lot of skill changes. They did this thing where they were trying to put skills in line. Then they also did a bunch of sets. And then this update, they did a bunch of monster sets, but they pretty much got the monster sets like hammered in perfectly, in my opinion, on their changes. I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that, but I do feel like they did that, and they did it, I don't want to say perfectly, but they did it in a way that puts those sets on par with other sets. And I also think that's a lot of reason why you're seeing a lot of these, a lot of people not releasing a lot of stuff right away, is because there's a lot of, they've got to look at every potential set combination now in how it's going to work with the different roles, especially when it comes to the meta, because those guys focus on the numbers a lot. So you're going to see that taking a little bit longer this time, because the sets that were affected weren't just sets that were affected by the meta in PvP, but also in PvE. A lot of people say Bloodspawn wasn't a highly used set by tanks. It was for the ulti gen, not so much the resistances. And in PvP, they wanted it for the ulti gen and the resistances. So it's not so much that they nerfed it for PvP, that the big nerf came to PvP, but it's also that they did nerf it for PvE. They reduced the amount of ulti gen, but not by so much that it makes it useless. but by enough that they don't know if it's going to be worth it now compared to other sources of ulti-gen, because it's so on par now with like Wolf Hunter or sorry, Hide of the Werewolf, or the new set that's in Murkmire that does the same kind of thing that Wolf Hunter does, but it's like instead it's whenever you deal damage. So there's like this really more even balance between those ulti-gen sets and ulti-gen skills and ulti-gen passives, things like that from different classes, and it's more equalized. So you're seeing a lot more flexibility now in that it's more focused. And it's not just that set. Lord Warden also got some adjustments, but pretty much any set that gives you a lot of survivability got hurt. And not so much like nerfed to death, but got hurt in the sense that they brought them down to be more equivalent to the design that they wanted, so they wouldn't be just the go-tos. So there's other options out there, and it's just like with sets. There's a lot of sets that they made adjustments to, including like Kvetch's Gladiator, which is now, I would say, like, for anyone who's playing a build that plays into the execute phase, like, that's a really good set to go for now, because it plays into that so well that, yeah, you're not getting as much weapon damage as you might from another set or stamina, but it's the fact that you get that such a massive increase now to all abilities, both magic and stamina, and it does apply to both, with that set. So it's like you get this really overpowered setup. It does go really well, and I did do some testing. It goes really well with Reliquin. It goes really well with Thordakin or something. It's like one of the sets from one of the ice dungeons that they came out with recently, like last year. And so it plays into those ones, Wrathstone DLC. So it plays into some of these sets, like it plays off of them really well, but then also by itself, it's really good for that conceptual idea of like, hey, I got this really bursty set when I get them below 25% health. So it makes that execute phase even more effective. I tried it out with Nightblade. I did that and the Thordakin one, the one that gives you like increased, I think it's increased crit chance, very much like Advancing Yodakai, but just easier to get. And so I used those two in combination with each other, and it was insane. I was like literally nuking trash like it was nothing. And then even in boss encounters, I noticed that once you get them to below 25% health and you're using the execute, the Killer's Blade, or even the Impale or whatever, it would just start ramping up the damage even more. And then there's even other abilities, especially things like Endless Hail, or not Rapid Strikes, the dual wield crosscut thing that you know, some of these abilities they get amplified. Oh, a poison injection, that was it. So poison injection gets increased in damage by itself by 20% the lower their health gets. But when you get them into execute phase, that ramps up really fast, but now you have this increase in damage attached to it. It's almost like having a Maelstrom staff for stamina users, but it only applies when they're below 25% health. So it's like that, a balanced trade-off. And I really, again, I do like the set. I do think it has its place in the game, and along with pretty much any set now. And I really love how you can interact with the different pieces in different combinations and get different effects. I really like that. I really, really do. I also tried it with DK, using it with the Noxious Breath and Viper's Sting in that set. And Viper's Sting, you proc poison damage. It's pretty powerful, and it plays into that whole theme of the Dragonite and poison damage, that kind of stuff. So you have like this extra poison damage, and I was doing it with Veladriths. Because Veladriths gives you the weapon damage, it also gives you that increased, gives you disease damage. So what I did was I tried it in combination with Vipers, and it worked out really well, but it basically made all your abilities execute. So it was like ridiculous how powerful some of your abilities become in that 25% range. But I could go on about other sets too, because there was a lot of sets that had adjustments. Briarheart had some adjustments and is actually like well beyond powerful now, and it's a really good set. Probably one of the best sets, I would say, besides the Griffins set, for starting DPS builds. Like if you're looking for an overland DPS set for stamina builds, or even a build that's using light armor that plays with some stamina, those two sets are really good for that, because one gives you minor force for so many seconds and it's pretty much up non-stop, and then the other one gives you the health and weapon damage. So you get that nice trade-off, and those two together are actually really good together, because then you don't have to use like Barb Trap. There's other skills you can use to get you the minor, you don't have to worry about anything for minor force. You get it automatically, and it's a really great combination to help you get, a high burst DPS, and I don't want to say high burst, but a high DPS build for getting into high, more challenging group content, to where you can get some other sets, and then moving on into trials, that kind of thing. Like you could still hold on to the Briarheart and dump the Griffins and get a different set like Reliquin, or get the Thordican, or whatever that one is, and you get a lot of really good, again, combinations out of the game for different play styles, depending on what you're looking for. Now, a lot of the stuff I just mentioned was more meta than it is more to like role play. But even though you could do that, you can still role play a really powerful stamina DPS character that way, and it's actually pretty good. Especially like Wardens, really powerful on them, really powerful on Necromancers, really powerful on Templars, especially if you're playing with a two-handed Templar, because you can't get increased weapon damage from those, some other like passive skill or active skill from your class. Necromancers and them can't. Wardens can, but Wardens also get a lot of abilities that are high burst damage anyways. So those two, that combination, the Briarheart and the Griffins, really plays well into those three classes in a way that gives them a lot more flexibility, but at the same time a lot more oomph. Now, like a Nightblade, it's really good on, but if I was going to do something with a Nightblade, I would actually go like Briarheart and the Kvetch's Gladiator, or Briarheart and Hunting's Rage, because it's going to play better into the class design more, with being that execute weapon. So those other sets play better into those other classes, because it gives them things that they don't, not that they don't have, but it just amplifies their abilities a lot better, because of the fact they get that minor force, they get that extra health and weapon damage and stuff like that. But I mean, even Briarheart plays pretty much with every class really well. Griffins plays with every class really well, especially Sorks. That combination is crazy. So, but enough with that. Enough with this. Right now, I'm more stoked about what's coming. I watched the release trailer today for the not cinematic, but the gameplay trailer for Greymoor, and I have to say that had me like ready to go. I'm ready to get into it. I want to see the content now. I'm ready to play, but at the same time, I'm like, give me the next 2 weeks to work on all my characters, because I'm taking every single one of them to Greymoor. And that's 13 characters, so I want, or 12 characters. I want to get them all in Greymoor, playing through the content and just enjoying it. So I've been making several adjustments to many of my character builds, allowing for not only flexibility, but more interesting build structure and gameplay, just to allow a lot more options. So it's again one of those things, and I've been looking at the different things that we're getting with Greymoor, not just the vampire changes, not just the werewolf changes, but the antiquity system. I'm really stoked for that. I'm really stoked for the Western Skyrim Blackreach combination play, having this massive underground system to play in with delves and a public dungeon, bosses, that kind of thing. Like it's just such a unique zone and area. It's going to be fun to play in. And then on top of that, we do get a new trial. I probably will play through it a few times, not too much. I'll probably play through it once or twice on normal, see if I want to play through it on veteran, if it's to me worth it to play on veteran. But otherwise I'm just going to play it normal and get rewarded for doing it, you know, and getting some of the stuff from it, and then just move on from there, just to play the story, because the story sounds amazing in there. But that's pretty much it for the video, guys. Hope you guys liked it. If you did, you guys know what's coming next. Go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day. And this guy might see you in game. Bye.